Bole Baba Ki Jai, Jagdambe Mata Ki Jai. In our last discourse, we learned about King Pariksit getting a terrible curse because he put a snake around a Muni's neck when he was meditating, that he would be killed by a snake, a great serpent, in the next week. And so he's built a huge 7-story palace for him to be protected from. And then right at the end of the chapter, we found about a Muni that felt like he could come and save the king with his mantras. And he was only doing that to achieve wealth and fame. So here we are at chapter 10. Sutta said, O Rishis, on that very day when the Brahma Kasyapa, the one with the great mantras to destroy the venom of the snake, went out of his house, Takasara, the serpent itself, knowing the king Pariksit cursed, assumed an aged Brahman's form and went out of his abode. The serpent Takasara met this Muni, Kasyapa, on the way. And seeing that Brahman, very versed in the mantras, Takasara asked him, where are you going in such haste, and what for are you taking this trouble? Thus questioned, Kasyapa replied, I heard that the serpent Takasara will bite the king Pariksit. Therefore I'm going in haste to the king to cure him of the serpent's poison. I know the mantras that can destroy the effect of poison. If his life period is not exhausted, I will certainly give him back his life. Takasara then said, O Brahman, I am that Takasara. I will bite him and take away his life, so you better desist. Will you be able to treat him whom I bite? Certainly you will not. Kasyapa said, O chief of snakes, when you will bite the king, who has been cursed by the Brahman, I will no doubt make him alive by the power of my mantras. Takasara said, O chief of the Brahmanas, if you have so thought that you will make the king alive after I bite him, then show me your strength beforehand, O sinless one. I will bite that king. I will bite this tree, this Indian fig tree, just now, and you see if you can make it alive after I do that. Kasyapa said, certainly I will make this tree alive. That will be burnt away by the venom of your teeth. Sutta said, the snake Takasara then bit the tree, which was reduced to ashes, and asked Kasyapa to bring back life to the tree. Seeing the tree reduced to ashes by the fire of the venom of the snake, Kasyapa collected all the ashes and said, O highly venomous serpent, see today the power of my mantras. Behold, while you are witnessing, I will enliven this tree. Thus the great mantra knower, Kasyapa, took water in his hand, impregnating it with his mantra power, sprinkled the water on the ashes. Immediately on the sprinkling of the mantra saturated water, the fig tree got back its life as before. Takasara became greatly astonished to see the tree enlivened again, and said to Kasyapa, O king, O chief of the Brahmanas, what is your object in taking so much pains? Speak out what you want, and I will fulfill your desires. Kasyapa said, O chief of serpents, knowing the king cursed, I am going to do good to him by my knowledge, and to get in return abundant wealth. Hearing this, Takasara said, I will give you the amount of wealth that you desire. Take that and go back to your house, and let my desire be also fulfilled. Sutta said, Kasyapa, the knower of the high estate, heard Takasara's words and pondered in his mind again and again, what is to be done now? If I take this wealth from the serpent and go back to my house, my name and fame will not be known in the world simply for my greed. But if the king be made alive again, my undying fame, abundant wealth, and great merit will accrue to me. Again, vie to that wealth with which there is no fame. So one must try one's best to preserve one's fame. The king Raghu in ancient days gave away everything of his to the Brahmanas for fame. The king Harishchandra and Karna did not hesitate a bit to give away endless property. There is one point again to take into account. How can I trifle away the matter, seeing the king burnt up by the venomous fire? If I can bring back the king's like, everyone will become happy. If the kingdom be without its king, the subject will no doubt be ruined. So following the king's death, sin will also incur on me due to the ruin of the subjects, and infamy will cover on my head that I am a very greedy man. Thus meditating in his mind, the highly intelligent Kassapa began to meditate and plunged himself into meditation. Thereby, he came to know that the king's life period was actually spent up. Thus, knowing the king's death imminent, the virtuous Kassapa took the desired wealth from Takasara and returned home. Thus, making Kassapa to retire to his house on the seventh day, Takasara went to the kingdom to bring death and destruction on to Pariksit. When he went close to the city, he heard that King Pariksit was staying on the upper story of the palace that he had built, and the palace had been preserved by various gems, mantras, herbs, and plants. Takasara became very anxious and fearing lest the curse of the Brahmins will fall on his head, because very much agitated and thought, how shall I now enter the palace? How can I cheat this hypocrite of a vicious king who put the snake around the Muni's neck? Cursed by the Brahmin whose causes trouble to the Brahmanas. Not a single man has taken birth in the Pandava family ever since that king has coiled a dead serpent around the neck of this ascetic Brahmin. The king has committed a very heinous crime, and knowing the course of time to be infallible, has placed sentries on all sides of the palace and has ascended to the topmost story of the building, thinking thereby to deceive death, and is staying in a peaceful mind. How can then he be smitten in accordance with the Brahman's words? The king of dull intellect knows not that death cannot be prevented. For that reason, he has placed guards and sentinels around his buildings. And he himself has got up in the house and is happily whiling away his time, but is quite ignorant that when fate, who can never be violated, ordains the death, how can it be prevented, though thousands of attempts are made to thwart it? This king of the Pandu family knows that his death is at hand, and yet wants to live, therefore is staying in his own palace with tranquil mind. The king ought now to make charities and other meritorious works. It is only by acts of dharma that disease is destroyed and life prolonged. And if that not be the object, then a dying man ought to take a bath, to make charities, and to await his time of death. He thereby attains heaven, otherwise hell is inevitable. The king committed great sins in the act of causing pains and troubles to the Brahmin, or other similar acts, and therefore death is so close that the Brahmin curse has fallen thus on his head. Is there no such Brahmin who can make him understand this, or the Creator has ordained his death now as inevitable? Thus meditating, the chief serpent made other serpents following him assume the form of ascetic Brahmins and gave them roots and fruits to be taken to the king. The serpent Takasara himself entered within the fruits in the form of an insect. Then the ascetic serpents took the fruit and quickly went out to the palace. They came to that place where Pariksit was resting. Seeing them, the guards said, "What have you come here for?" Hearing this, "We are coming from the hermitage to prolong the life of the hero king and the son of the Pandava family by chanting the mantras, and we want to have an interview with the king. Now you better go and inform the king that some munis have come to see you. We will sprinkle water on him and give him some sweet fruits and then depart. We have never come across such gatekeepers in the family of Bharata to disallow the ascetic Muni visitors to go and see the king. We will ascend to the place where the Pariksit is staying, and we will bless him and wish him long life. We will communicate to him our orders and then depart to our places. Sutta said, hearing these words, the sentinels spoke as previously ordered by the king, as follows. O Brahmanas, we think verily you won't be able to have an interview with the king today. You are all ascetics. Please come tomorrow to this palace. O Manus, owing to the Brahmana's curse, the king has built this place. Then it follows, as a matter of course, that the Brahmanas are not allowed to get up to the palace. Then the serpent, in the form of Brahmanas, spoke. O good sentinels, then take these roots and fruits and offer them to the king and communicate to him our blessings. The sentinels went to the king and informed him of the arrival of the ascetic Brahmins. The king replied, bring here the roots and fruits offered by them and ask what they have come. Give them my pranams today. I cannot meet with them. Let them come tomorrow morning. The sentinels went to the ascetics and got from them their roots and fruits and offered them with great respect to the king. When the serpents in the guise of the hypocrite Brahmins went away, the king took those fruits and spoke to his ministers. Take these fruits and let all my friends eat them. I will take only this fruit given by me from the Brahmans, and I will eat it. Saying this, the king gave away fruits to the friends and took one ripe one for himself, broke it, and saw within it a very fine, copper-colored, black-eyed insect. At this the ministers were astonished. The king spoke to them. The sun had set, so there is no further chance of any fear from any poison today. I speak then today, fearing the Brahman's curse. Let this insect bite me. Thus saying, the king took that insect and placed it on his neck. That Takasara, in the form of an insect, when placed during the sunset on the neck by the king, immediately assumed the form of the terrible death, coiled around the king and beat him. The ministers were greatly surprised and began to weep and cry with great pain and sorrow. Seeing that terrible serpent, Takasara, the ministers, overwhelmed with terror, fled away on all sides. The guards cried out loudly. The terrible outcry was raised on all sides. Then the King Pariksit, coiled by the serpent, saw that all his efforts were rendered fruitless and remained silent and held fast to his patience. From the mouth of the serpent Takasara, the terrible venomous flames came out, burning all, and immediately killed the king. Thus taking away the life of the king, Takasara went up to the celestial atmosphere. The people then saw that the serpent was ready as if to burn the world. The king fell down lifeless like a burnt tree, and all the persons cried out, seeing the king dead. Thus ends the 10th chapter of the 2nd book on the death of the King Pariksit in the Mahapurana Srimad Devi Bhagavatam of 18,000 verses. Shri Mahadevi Mata Ki Jai, Mahamaya Mata Ki Jai, Herakandashvari Mata Ki Jai, Bole Baba Ki Jai.